Morning, Gav. How's things?
Good, good. Back for another chat.
Back for another chat, yeah. What are we looking at this week?
We are looking at one of my top five, possibly top 10 albums
Wow.
in my life. What a beast. Queens of the Stone Age, Songs for the Deaf. Got it on vinyl there at Christmas. It's an absolute humdinger of an album, if you ask me. Some diehard Queens fans might say Rated R is better or this or that, but some people say it's probably the most polished of the Queens albums, but it's still dark and sludgy and mysterious and desert rock. And,
Yeah.
you have three vocalists. This is the last album with the bassist, Olivieri, who left the band after that, went on his way. His bass, the rhythm in this album between Dave and him, I just love it.
But to me,
Yeah,
I think this is a supergroup. Like, looking
it
back,
is. It is.
it really is a supergroup. So Josh Homme had this project, Queens of the Stone Age, which I think he played all the instruments bar the drums on the first album, a little bit similar to Dave Grohl. Then they had, as you say, that album Rated R. So they had Nick Oliveri was involved in that, obviously, in
Yeah,
songwriting and
yeah.
bass, and I think he did some vocals as well. And then from that album, the only musicians that carried through was Nick and Josh, and they teamed up with Dave Grohl from, of course, Foo Fighters and Nirvana.
Gene Troutman, who was the drummer on the other album, actually plays on Six Shooter. You Think I Ain't Worth a Dollar, but Feel Like a Millionaire on this album.
On two tracks, wasn't it? Yeah.
And to be honest, I think the opening song that You Think I Ain't Worth a Dollar, but I Feel Like a Millionaire is some of the best drumming on this
Uh,
album.
Gene Troutman is a beast. Like
Yeah, yeah,
Dave Grohl is amazing as well. Don't get me wrong,
yeah.
but like it wasn't like they were going from a weak drummer to a strong drummer. They were just keeping a very
High
high
level,
line. And
high.
actually, funny enough, Josh Homme is an amazing drummer. Do you ever hear
Yeah,
of a band called the Eagles of Death Metal?
yeah, yeah. He's in that, isn't he?
He's
Yeah,
yeah. Now I think he does all the studio work with them. I don't think he
yeah.
does much live with them. He's a pretty good drummer himself. So
He's a gifted man.
without a doubt, without a
He
doubt.
and then there's the desert sessions. Did you ever hear of that? The stuff that Mark Lanigan and Josh would have done. Like they have a couple of albums. And then they have that Them Crooked Vultures as well. With the guy from John Paul Jones is with them.
Yeah,
Like there's so many
amazing
side
album.
projects. I think it's the Desert Sessions it's called, and like there's just random musicians that go out to like the Joshua Tree where they have a small studio where some of this was supposedly written and done as well,
Yeah.
and they just like lock themselves out there for like and random musicians just come up and play. But yeah, so it's the third studio album by the band, released on August 27th, 2002 by Interscope Records. Of course, it features Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters and Nirvana. And as I said, it was the last album to feature the bassist Nick Oliveri. And it's a concept album, which I love. I hope you do too.
Absolutely.
Uh,
It's a real driving album. You stick it on in the car and you're driving on a journey and the album's taking you through a journey.
it's two different worlds. The
Yeah.
desert out in say out where they are in the Joshua Tree compared to LA, and it really does bring you. And we've often talked on our we podcast about certain albums are for certain themes or different moods. We'd say where
Yeah.
some album could be okay, that's a drinking album. Okay, we put this on, we have a couple of beers. Other albums are, if you have a few friends over for a bit of food, you can play this album in the background. It's just nice.
Yeah.
This is a driving album, as you say. Like
Yeah.
there's no for me maybe one skip. Six Shooter it's noisy.
So
It's
Nick Oliveri does the lead vocals in this one, does he?
yes, but
Yeah.
as I can chat a wee bit about it, it's about heroin.
Yes.
So it's the concept of an addict battling with the substance and how it can torment the user or whatever. So that's why they tried to like show or make the feel of the song of the battling and the screaming. And if you listen to the lyrics, it's very deep and very dark, but kind of gives you an insight into the mind of a user and his daily battles. But it is a tough listen. It's quite loud. That's the only one that I'd probably skip over, to be honest.
Yeah, it's very aggressive, very punk rock.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
like it's still, yeah, look, I think it fits well with the album still. Like stylistically, it fits well with the album and from a sonics perspective as well.
Yeah.
It's aggressive, but this is an aggressive album. This is
Yeah.
like we were talking about before we come on. I remember when this came out, this was like nothing else happening in
No,
rock music or metal at the time. This was just out
no.
on its own. It was
Yeah.
amazing. It was unique. There was nobody doing this like Queens of the
Nobody.
Stone Age. They have this knack of like blending Black Sabbath, Soundgarden with like elements of grunge and even other elements of like Josh Homme talked a lot about big into rhythm and grooves, and he takes a lot of inspiration from electronic music in
Yeah.
terms of getting a groove and hanging on that groove to pull the listener in, and make
Yeah.
people jump around and dance events, like, and you've been to a Queens of the Stone Age gig, like, it's mental.
It's great. It's so good. Like there's nothing like it, like you said. 2002, like what was out? Like, you probably had some of the new metal stuff coming through, probably Linkin Park and, Slipknot and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
this
pop
was,
pop punk was huge. You know, you had Green Day had an album
yeah.
out around then, and of course Blink 182. These guys were
But
all getting big.
I think rock and roll and metal and everything needed this album,
Yeah,
needed this band just to carry that, probably my age group and maybe yourself to, maybe lead you down. Okay, I like this. All right, their influences are X, Y, and Z. Oh, maybe I'll listen to some of that or some of
yeah.
this. Whereas the pop punk or the new metal stuff is completely different when you look at, say, Deftones or Linkin Park or Slipknot.
Red Hot Chili Peppers were huge at the time. I remember they released
Yeah.
that album,
But there's it's
Californication, and then they
it's
had
nothing
By the
like it.
Way. Absolutely
Nothing.
nothing like it. Absolutely
No.
nothing like it. And Chili Peppers were on a massive tour around that time. They actually played St. Castle. I think you
Yeah.
said you were at that gig.
Yeah, I was at that one. Yeah.
And Foo Fighters and Queens of the Stone Age supported them. Now, I missed Queens of the Stone Age. I didn't get in early enough to see them,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I kind of regretted. And to be honest, for a long, long time, I didn't get to see Queens of the Stone Age. I think I saw them at Oxygen, the back end of their set one year, but then they played last year. Sorry, 2023 actually it was. They played in Dublin, and it was amazing. Like, absolutely
Yeah,
brilliant.
I missed that one, but I do remember Slane and him coming out and singing, and obviously Dave Grohl was there, but I don't think he played with them. I don't think he came out for even a song. I think that
Foo
other
Fighters
guy,
were
yeah,
Foo Fighters were on the bill as well. So
yeah, Mark Lanigan. Unfortunately, he had his demons and he passed away. He actually lived in Killarney.
that's right. That's right. He
Yeah,
actually passed away following complications from COVID.
yeah,
So he moved down to Killarney about 5 or 6 years ago, and
yeah. He
then
loved it.
yeah, like a lot of them love just the peace and quiet down there. No, they put on a
West
baseball
Cork.
cap, and nobody annoys them. Nobody knows who they
Nobody
are
knows them.
or
Yeah,
cares,
yeah,
and they just love that. I think Dave Grohl actually went down to the Ring of
yeah.
Kerry shortly after Kurt passed away, and didn't he see
Okay.
a
He
guy?
should
Yeah, seen a guy wearing a Nirvana t-shirt and decided, right, I'm gonna go back into music and record this Foo Fighters album, which I
take it
think
away.
is mind blowing. Like, our little island, we
Yeah.
seem to have so much influence on people. Like, it's great.
The album was produced by Josh Homme, Adam Casper, Eric Valentine, in three studios: the Barefoot Studio, Conway, and the Site. And Adam Casper previously worked and produced Foo Fighters' One by One album and Nirvana's. And Adam Casper produced Nirvana's last work in January '94 in Robert Lang's studios. Of course, the track "You Know You're Right," he worked on it.
Yeah,
As far as I
that's on
know.
their greatest hits or best of.
Yeah, I remember it came out probably when we were probably teenagers. So, but the song listing on the album, "You Think I Ain't Worth a Dollar, But I Feel Like a Millionaire." The bass player sings that. Nick Oliveri. "No One Knows," "First to Give It," "Song for the Dead," "Sky Is Falling," "Six Shooter," "Hanging Tree," "Go with the Flow," "Gonna Leave You," "Do It Again," "God Is in the Radio," "Another Love Song," "Songs for the Deaf," with a hidden outtake of "Feel Good Hit of the Summer" from Rated R, and then the Mosquito Song, which I absolutely love. And yeah, the album reached number 17 in the Billboard 200, number 4 in the UK albums, number 1 in the rock and metal albums in the UK. The album sold over 1 million copies in the US and 1 million in Europe, including 600,000 in the UK.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think they
a
were
lot.
bigger in the UK than they were
Yeah.
in the States.
I have some cool quotes by Dave Grohl. That Dave Grohl was been quoted saying that Queens of Stone Age are the best live band in the world, and he said, as a musician watching them perform, it's like that's just not fair. They're too good. That was his quote. Dave said that each member of the band is a badass and a monster musician. So Dave had been an admirer of the band since they supported Foo Fighters early on, as you said. Dave, who is good friends with Josh for years since '92, asked could he be involved with the previous album Rated R. At the time, drummer Gene Trotman was in the band, but during the year 2000, drummer Gene wanted to start working on other projects. The stars aligned and Dave was asked to join in October 2000. Dave was ecstatic but was nervous as he hadn't drummed in a long time. Dave delayed the Foo Fighters album One by One to October 2002 to tour for Songs for the Deaf. His first performance was March 7th, 02 at the Troubadour in LA, and his last was Fuji Rock Festival in Japan in July 28th. And Dave returned to Foos with Danzig drummer Joey Castillo replacing. That's who it was. Yeah, Grove.
Great drummer.
He was, yeah, great drummer. But that's just a little bit on Dave. But I think, as you said, like you could feel like as it is kind of a super group, but you could feel that there was a connection there, and supposedly like everything was recorded live and
To tape.
yeah, to
Even
tape.
even though they had the opportunity to record digitally, they decided to
Yeah,
record on analog tape, which
yeah, because
has
as
its own
that
challenges, but its own charm as well.
YouTube video that I was talking about with Eric Valentine, he talks about cutting tape with knives and sticking
Yeah.
to it. But that was Josh's big thing that he wanted. He didn't like the polished sound, and he tried to make it as rough and ready as possible. Now the drums are very clean on this, I think.
Yeah. Do you want to
But
talk about that actually? Because we were chatting about that the other day.
yeah, yeah, go for it, go for it. What do you reckon?
Well, you were saying you had sent me some great facts that the way the drums were recorded. So like I don't know if anyone's familiar about how drums are recorded, but like generally you'll mic up all your drum kit and you'll be in a big nice room with flat surfaces, so there's plenty of reverb and they call that the room sound. So
Yes,
you'll get your drum sound and then which is all of the close mics on all the different elements of the drum, the snare, the toms, the hi-hats, the cymbals, the kick. And then you'll put a couple of mics placed around the room at different locations and that'll give you the room sound. So this big echoey sound and it makes it sound like stadium rock. So think of Lars Ulrich on the Black Album, just a big heavy stadium rock drum sound. They wanted to go the opposite way in this album. They wanted to record the drums so that they were all nice and tight and there wasn't any room reverb on them. So to get that, they recorded the drums in two parts. So basically Dave came in, set up the kit, but instead of cymbals, they set up just rubber dummy cymbals and he played through the songs. They got that take down and that would be so the snare, the kick, the toms, and then he'd come back in and they'd record the song again. But this time the dummies would be the snare and the kick and the toms, and it would be all the cymbals and hi-hat, all the high end frequencies would be recorded the second time, and then they'd blend the two mixes together to get the perfect drum sound. So it was nice and tight. But for Dave to do that, he had to be an unbelievably tight drummer. And I don't believe he recorded this to a click. So
no, he
like
didn't.
that's phenomenal talent.
Yeah, doing it in two parts without a click.
Unbelievable.
And not been drumming professionally for a good few years. I'm sure he was tipping away, but
Yeah, yeah.
he's so tight, with the click, and someone's he doesn't have a click. They're like, what? How the fuck is he on the money every take? Like 3 takes or something. Some of the songs took. Some of them took one, I think. But the
Unbelievable.
the drum sound is so good. Yeah, I have to say, I really enjoy everything sound wise, sonic wise about this album. I think it's so dark and mysterious and just different. And as we chatted, and what I love too about the producer, they sent them out to like a secondhand music shop down the road and picked up all these old amp heads and old heads, and they recorded the guitars through a bass amp, and
Yeah, yeah.
almost made the band be creative. And I think that comes down to Josh Homme as well. I think they're like, right, look, we're killer musicians. Let's push the boundaries. Get that
Yeah,
piece of shit and let's make it shine.
yeah.
And that's what they did. You can talk more about the guitar sound. I know there was a lot of mid range and different boxes and stuff like that to push it. And the layeredness with Mike's position, as you talked about the drums, like the mic positioning behind the amp, right in front of the four cones and one off to the room. And that documentary online, if anybody's interested, it's Eric Valentine. Look it up on YouTube. The recording process of Songs for the Deaf. For me, who's not a musician, who just loves music, to get an insight on how this is done. He worked with Slash, he worked with Good Charlotte, he worked with a lot of musicians. But to get into the mind of the producer and know how he got the sound, and he really dummies it down. He plays each mic,
Yes.
for each, as you said, the sound, the small tight room sound in the corner, the one right in front and the one behind, and he breaks them all down and he puts them together, and you get this fucking beauty sound. Just there's nothing like it.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. Yeah, they didn't just mic up the guitars one mic to one amp. They put multiple mics around, and there's actually a great photograph. I snipped it because I wanted to send it on to you. I never got a chance.
Right.
I might actually add it up here on the final video when this goes out. But essentially, what they've got is like they've got the guitar amp, and instead of being mic'd up with just one mic, it's like I think Eric Valentine describes it very well. It's like someone giving an interview to the press. You've got about 15 mics all booming in from different directions to the amp to capture different sonics, different EQs and frequencies. And as you say, like they've got mics at the back, they've got mics in the room, but over in a corner. So they're all capturing different elements of the sound. And then he's able to put all that together and EQ it. And then as well with the guitars and the EQ, they've got a pedal coming out straight out of the guitar.
Yes.
And they've maxed the mids on that. So they've got a graphic equalizer. So they take the bass and the treble out and they max the mids. That goes into the amp. So it's already getting that heavy mids tone. The amp has its mid settings on it. But then when it goes back into the desk, he's actually EQing it even further to boost more mids. And Eric does a great job. I might leave the link in the description below if anyone's interested.
Go
But he
and
does a
watch it.
great job of showing this. Okay, this is it with one pedal. Okay, this is it with
Yeah,
this mic. This is it with that mic. But when he blends them all together, if you listen on headphones, guys, it's the best experience. Blow your mind.
yeah.
Absolutely blow your
Yeah,
mind.
it's so good. Like, and he's playing the riff from Songs for the Dead. The album did go on for 2 Grammy nominations.
Not surprising.
Yeah,
Not surprising.
no one knows best hard rock. Or was it Go with the Flow? Sorry, I think it was actually and Go with the Flow. But no one knows lost to All My Life by Foo Fighters and Go with the Flow lost to Evanescence, Bring Me to Life. So at the time I was doing this with our little podcast there, that's our podcast. I believe that Dave Grohl is one of very few that was nominated for 2 Grammys in the one category.
Okay, interesting.
So he was up for All My Life with Foo Fighters, and he was up with No One Knows with
Yeah.
Queen's Stone in the one category, which is pretty cool.
If you want to find
Right.
on for it.
I'll skip through just some of the ones that I'd like to talk about is First to Give It is by Homie. It's
Yeah.
kind of like about drug taking, how it's good at the start and turns dark. Songs for the Dead is by Mark Lanigan. The organ I love in it, the strange feel to it, the heavy intro, the stops and starts. I love that about it. And the
Yeah.
finishing of that song, you know, you think it's over and then it goes
Hey.
and you think it's over. And the outro of the drumming of that song,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
There's a part
Sky
in that
is
song.
Fall.
Sorry, it's the part of that song where it stops, and
Yeah.
then you could just hear Dave Grohl going, "Hey!"
Yeah.
And it's the drum mic is picking it up,
Yeah.
and it goes back into it.
Yeah, yeah, I
Amazing.
love that.
Amazing.
The Sky is Falling is Josh Homme. Vocals are phenomenal. The harmonies and the real low harmonies and the
Well, that's
you know,
Mark Lanigan. I think he's a baritone singer, very similar
sorry,
to
yeah, I
Eddie
think
Vedder,
Homme,
isn't he?
yeah, I think Homme wrote it. I could be wrong though, but
Okay.
yeah, it's so eerie, isn't it? And when you really, as I said to you before we started, every time you listen to this album, you learn something new because there's so much, you know, there's backwards, reverse vocals and stuff on some songs, and God is in the radio. There's some creepy stuff in that.
It's layered.
Distortion, yeah. It's almost like grunge, that song, I feel.
Oh yeah, yeah. This
Almost,
this could be considered a grunge album,
yeah.
timing wise.
Yeah, it's mad signature, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of the songs are very unusual. I think, especially in that one we just talked about, Songs for the Dead. I don't know what signature the drumming is in. It's mental. Hanging Tree, drumming is complex, unusual rhythm, haunting dark vocals by Nick and Josh and Mark. What else will we chat about? God is in the radio. I like to call that one drinking music myself. I think that one is just nice background. Lyrics are dark again, but interesting piano, nice touch to it. Lanigan's voice is just so damn good. So let's talk about Mosquito Song, one of my favorites. I think it actually could have been a single in the album.
Definitely.
I remember the first time I heard it, and I'm like, okay, because this is such a concept album, and we have to talk about the radio DJs and the switching, you know. And you know, we chatted about it on airs as well about how the songs, the tempo and everything, you almost get the feel of as you're leaving a busy city in LA, and you know, you have them first few songs at the start.
Yeah.
You know, No One Knows First to Give Us Songs for the Dead. And I feel like when you hit Sky is Falling, you're almost on the highway. You know, the lights of LA is in your rear view mirror. You're on the highway and it's just going, and then Hanging Tree, you're coming into the desert, and I just love the feel of it. And then when you get to the Mosquito Song, and I love how the radio DJ says it's good night from, was it good night from us or good night for now or something, and then it just rolls into Mosquito Song.
Yeah.
And you can just, I actually left a comment on something this morning or last night, is like, that song is a short film in my head anyway. Personally, I can, if I close my eyes and I listen to that song, I can see, you know, a convertible car, dirty after the big drive from LA, pulled up at a little shack timber house in the desert. Josh is sitting in a rocking chair on the porch, smoking a cigarette. Yeah. And, you know, he's kicking back. He's got his acoustic guitar in his hand. The mosquitoes are buzzing around him, probably a glass of whiskey, you know, feet up and just playing that guitar and playing that song. And you just get a feel of that. To me personally, I just feel that whole environment in that song. I get that and I fucking love it.
One of the most powerful things in music is if it can translate, you can listen to it and it can translate into an image in your mind.
Yeah.
And there's some people who are absolutely gifted at that. You know, Tom Petty, one of my favorite artists of all time, he is an absolutely gifted songwriter and he paints a picture with songs in your head.
Yeah.
I think Bruce Springsteen, some of his stuff is similar as well. Billy Joel,
Yeah.
if you ever ever listen to that song, The Piano Man? He's talking
Yeah,
about these characters coming into a bar, and you've got this picture in your head. It's like a movie. But
yeah.
this album, 100%, from
It's like a
lyrically, but
yeah,
also the instruments and the feel and the vibe. It's this album is brilliant at portraying a vibe, isn't it? And
yeah,
as you say, putting you in the car driving, you can feel yourself going through. Like
yeah.
you've never been there. Most people have never been to that part of the world, but you kind of, it's like you know it because you're on the journey with the band, and I think that's just amazing.
The whole album is like a short film.
Yeah.
It really is. You can picture like a Bonnie and Clyde or whatever you want to call it. Two people just driving and zipping through, and the channels coming in, and it goes to the more religious stuff as you get deeper into the God is in the radio, and
Yes. Yeah.
you get the tune in and God will save you. All this crack, like as you
Yeah.
can imagine in some of the more midtown American towns. But even the horn section in the Mosquito Song, it
Yeah.
brings just another. Oh wow, there's
It's
more. I thought it was over. It's shit. There's another layer to this.
it's
Uh,
jarring, like, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And going back to the "Song for the Deaf," I love that the fortune teller kind of radio DJ.
Yeah.
It's a weird intro, and then you get that riff that Eric Valentine goes over in the doom, 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 and the haunting screams in the background. That's another thing that I only recently I was listening to. I'm like, oh, what's that? What's that? Like really low down. But if you listen to that song again, if
Yeah.
you listen to it, you'll just hear like proper screaming, and it's Nick Oliveri and Josh in the studio, and it's just them screaming, and
Brilliant.
they just lower it down and it's like, oh, what's that? It brings you in, and it's sketchy and it's mysterious and it's what
Such
I
a good
love.
album. And I think you'll probably find now, listening to it on physical format through a good set of speakers with it, you have a good hi-fi system there now at the moment.
Mm,
You hear so much more. Like I even heard more. I was listening to the album on the CD the other night just in prep for this call, and yeah, like I noticed so much more when I had the album cranked. I could really hear the depth stuff that you mightn't hear on a set of AirPods and Spotify.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, just as I said, even no one knows the
Mm.
string section to it as it builds to that kind of chorus, and there's a lot of bass. The bass and the drums is very prominent in a lot of the album.
Yeah.
But I never really picked up. And then when you listen, you're like, how did I not hear these fucking strings? But it's like so much strings, and it just comes, it just builds and builds, and then and then it's just don't, don't, and then it just goes again. But yeah, do yourself a favor and listen to this album because
Yeah,
I don't
get
think
it on physical media, whether it be vinyl or CD. You really need that to experience, like I know they have streaming and lossless files and all this, but I don't think you get the depth, especially for an album like this when, the band have put so much into it, layering it. It deserves to be listened to in the right format, and that's why I think physical media is still number one for me anyway.
yeah, yeah. Any other favorites on the album, Rob?
Oh, well, I love No One Knows, obviously. When the song came out, that was a huge video at the time with Dave Grohl playing
Yeah,
drums with Queens. Like, it's just amazing stuff. Song for the Dead, unbelievable.
yeah,
It's such a crushing song. Like, lucky enough
so
to
good.
see that live when they played it in Dublin, whatever it was, a year and a half ago, and oh my God, it's just amazing. It's absolutely
Yeah,
brilliant. I love Go with the Flow as well. And First to Give It, like, it's just, but like you were mentioning, 6 Shooter, yeah, it probably is one of the lower points in the album, but like it's an extremely strong album. Like, it's
yeah.
it's
Even
unbelievably
gonna leave
strong.
you. I like the concept of gonna leave you.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost the two songs "Gonna Leave You" and "Do It Again" is like it's dealing with addiction. "Gonna Leave You" is like the addict talking to the drugs that I'm quitting. I'm
Yes.
gonna leave you, and then the next track is "Do It Again," and it's like a relapse.
Yeah.
It's going back to the bad habits. And if you listen to the lyrics, there's one of them: "You and me fit so tight." They repeat that, and it's
Yeah.
like the addict is convincing himself, "Okay, you and me fit so tight." It's like it's there's a lot of if you listen to the lyrics in this, it is quite dark. And the boys had their troubles, a lot of them, Nick and Mark, and but
And Josh, like
Josh had his
they've all
stuff.
had
Actually, he was.
demons.
Thank God, I heard he's doing better, but he was struggling last year with some illness as well. So
Yeah.
day
Yeah. Oh,
after the
that's great to hear. He's on the mend because
yeah, and there's talk of them going out again, so he must be doing really well, which is it's good to hear. And
great.
yeah, we wish him the best.
Absolutely, he's a genius, and hopefully there's a lot more to come from Queens of the Stone Age because their last album was a killer.
Yeah.
In Times New Roman, brilliant
Yeah,
album.
I did. I had a note here that I seen that the Desert Sessions is with Dave Catchings. That's the guy that owns the
Of
studio.
course, yeah,
And as you said, and there is some albums of that. There's like Desert Sessions number 10, number 11, 12, 13, and that's some psychedelic stuff there if you want to check that out.
Yeah, yeah,
But,
very, very progressive.
yeah.
But yeah, oh, this
As
is
I
a really
say,
good album.
this album is definitely in my top 10 of all time, possibly in my top five. It depends
That's
on my humor a week, but I really, really regard this as one of my favorites.
That's definitely up there, yeah. For me, I'd say it's a 9 out of 10 album, and I the reason I wouldn't give it 10 out of 10 is I just think, like we spoke about this before, that the mastering on it, it's very heavily compressed,
Mm.
and I just found at times it was difficult to appreciate all the music because the music is amazing on this. I'd say it's probably better on vinyl, Gavin, than on
Mm.
CD because
Mm.
vinyl, you're limited in what you can do. You can't push it too much,
Yeah.
so that's why people really love vinyl because it's not as compressed as CDs a lot of the time, you know. Now it's all comes down to the mastering, but for this here, like this was all about, it was loud, it was aggressive, and it was for young people. So you know that's why
Yeah.
they wanted it all, you know, foot to the floor, like a wall
Yeah.
of sound. So you know, fair enough. I
Yeah.
can see what they
And
were
I
doing.
and I and I, I do agree with you because, like as I said, sometimes when you listen to it, you pick up on some. Oh, I didn't hear that, and obviously that's because the compression. But I really think that's what Josh wanted. Like he does not like anything clean. He just likes noise and guitars and just
Yeah.
everything. But I 100% agree. Yeah, I find it hard to give any album 10 out of 10. And 10 out of 10. It's definitely up there. It's definitely a high 8, 9. I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything 10 out of 10 in my eyes. There's always you can always pick at something, but it's
Yeah, I
definitely,
agree. You can always pick at something, but what the way I look at it is in the realm of what music has been released in the last whatever 70 years. I'm going to put the best stuff at 10. I'm going to
yeah,
put the worst stuff at 1 or 0, and then everything
yeah.
else is in between. Now, if some new album comes out that trumps absolutely everything that I've ever heard in the past, then maybe that'll go to 10, and something else will become a 9. But to be honest, a lot of the albums coming out these days, they're
Mm.
not, like, for us as rock and metal fans, just leaving a lot to be desired. You know.
Yeah, yeah,
Over
yeah.
polished, over produced, especially the drums. That really annoys me when the drums come out and you just know it's
But you know
completely
what? I,
quantized.
I, I think in our little country here at the minute, Ireland, like we on our channel, that's our podcast, one of our big things is to really go out and push local stuff,
Yeah,
including your own band, Rob. There is a lot of good stuff right now in Ireland. There's if any of your listeners are into kind of the metally trash stuff, there's a band called Gamma Bond who are from Northern Ireland. Absolute trash. Talk about trash metal,
yeah,
like 80s trash metal. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Down in Cork and stuff, there's a great scene at the minute, Galway, some brilliant venues. And
yeah.
one thing that we always say, and I'd like to push to your listeners, is go out there and support local music, whether you're in Ireland, England, America, Canada, Australia. Go and support local acts because they need it more than anybody.
Without a doubt, yeah. No, there's no doubt. For every Queens of the Stone Age, there's another 20 bands that were so close, just didn't make it. Whether it was
Yeah.
record labels, production, managers. There's all sorts of reasons why bands don't make it, and so a lot of the time, it's not down to the bands, it's not down to the music or the songwriting. It's
Sometimes
just
luck.
it's just luck,
Yep.
So I'm fully convinced of that. Yeah, that's absolutely. So yeah, go support and try and buy CDs and vinyl of bands because that puts the money back into the band's pockets. Streaming, they don't get the
Or
money from it.
merch. Yeah.
Or merch, yeah, as you say, go to a gig, show up, support them, and there's plenty out there, plenty of bands. So what was spinning this week, Gavin, for you?
A nice classic album that from listening to your channel I got on the radio this week, Deep Purple.
Deep Purple, yeah.
I shamefully never really, got into listening to a full album of theirs. And the which two did I listen to? I listened to which one did you review on your channel?
We reviewed Fireball, most
Fireball,
recently
and
with
then
Pat.
the next one was what was the one then I listened to? What was the
Oh,
next one
Machine
after?
Head was the one
Machine
after.
Head, Machine Head. I really enjoyed Machine Head. I think it's a brilliant album. There was one song in particular I have to cheat here because
Oh,
I can't remember the name of it. But night and day, them two albums for me. The
yes.
sound, and you did tell me that.
I think with Deep Purple are one of those bands for our generation, Gav, very easy to miss them. Very easy for them to
Yeah,
go under the radar. Like for me, like I don't know any other Deep Purple fans. Honestly, like even
right.
a lot of my friends who are into rock and metal, most of them don't know who Deep Purple are. And for me, it was Smoke on the Water riff. That was the first riff I learned on guitar. And
Yeah,
I went and got their best of and then got into them that way, But it was a conscious thing by me to sort of go seek them out. So they wouldn't be on your radar. As I said to you before, they're not considered a cool band for our generation. So, like, obviously, Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin from that generation are considered cool. A lot of people would have heard of them and would go and pick up their stuff. But Deep Purple are one of those bands that kind of go under the radar. But
Yeah,
I
I think
think they're
everybody knows
amazing.
"Smoke on the Water" though, and I think anyone that play guitar, like you said, or bass, they know that track
They
anyway.
know that track, and then that's it. And I don't think "Smoke on the Water" is their best song. I don't
No,
think
it's
"Smoke on the
not.
Water" is even the best song on that album, Machine Head.
It's not. Because maybe I'm a Leo is class.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah, great
brilliant.
one,
Space Trucking, I think is cool.
amazing.
Highway Star obviously is more one of the more well-known ones, I think, isn't it?
Oh, it's brilliant.
Lazy is pretty cool too. I mean, it's a fucking great album. There's no real duds on it.
There's no duds on it. It's
No,
amazing, and
yeah, but
it's as you said, it's raw. I think you were saying on your podcast, it's
yeah,
that '70s,
yeah,
not polished, just great
no,
musicians, and
yeah.
it's raw production, but you can hear the musicianship is
You can hear everything, and like you said, it's live. You know, it's even like there was an album we were talking about on the other thing, Rumors, and you know,
yeah,
there's songs. It's just all about in and out now. Like Rumors was recorded for a year, I believe, a year in the studio. Like no one's going to get that anymore. But and all the crap that was going on with Rumors. But what I'm trying to get is the sound and the vulnerability of the artist in front of the mic. I think is they just had more time. They were allowed to do more, try
the
different.
budgets were there.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Well, the
Back in
budgets
them
were
days,
there, yeah,
they
but
had time to go into a studio, have it
yeah.
make it their home for 6 months,
Mm.
properly set up a drum kit, get
But
the
just
right
the
takes.
recording though, the sound is it's just so much better. Like when you we're talking 50 years, maybe more,
Yeah,
and you're telling me that the equipment and stuff that was in the 70s to me sounds better than now.
yeah. I think as well. We're stuck in this thing these days where it's kind of like a fire hose. You know, you open up Spotify and it's all this stuff being pushed at you, and it's very
Mm,
hard to see. You know, wheat from the chaff. Like there's so
mm,
much coming at you. But back in the day, I think like when in the '70s, particularly in the States, like you had bands like Fleetwood Mac, Tom Petty, Bruce Springsteen, the Eagles. Like those bands were the cream of the crop, and there wasn't that much. You know, there was a lot of other fantastic bands, but like if you think of like pop rock or soft rock bands, there wasn't like I couldn't name you another 10 that were at that caliber. You know, there wasn't as many musicians around, and it just wasn't as big an industry as it is now. But now there's so much competition for any bands coming out to try and record. And as you say, it's in and out. They're trying to do things on a shoestring, like
mm,
record, like you'll know from Luke will tell you, like with sessions, it's in, cost of money, you know, to try and get everything down really fast, get it mixed, get it mastered, and get it out. And we're in the social media age where if a band isn't posting all the time, they get forgotten about, which is terrible,
mm,
you know, because you look at
mm.
bands like Fleetwood Mac or that, you know, they would have gone into the studio. No, there's no outside interference. They would get the album recorded, it gets mastered, released, then they go and tour it for a couple of years, and then they come back into the studio again and record another album. They were given time
Yeah.
for that whole organic cycle to happen. Whether now it's like you have to post, you have to be in the studio, record, and you have to post about it. Yeah, then you have to go and release your song, and it has to be a countdown, and then you need to make sure you're releasing 5 singles a year,
Mm,
stay relevant, and that's not fair on young bands. It's putting
yeah.
pressure on them, and it's
Yeah.
taking the organic thing away from it. You know?
Yeah, it's all about money now, and as you say, in and out, get it out. But
Yeah,
Rumors is a great album.
yeah,
It's a cool album. I love it. I really do. But that's for another day.
yeah.
Queens of the Stone Age. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. I don't think if you haven't listened to it before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a classic, an
Hmm.
absolute classic.
Deadly.
Thanks very much, Gav. That was a great chat.
Yeah, yeah. Enjoyed it as always. Anytime.
No problem. We'll try and hook up again the next week or two for
Yeah,
another chat if you're available.
100%. No problem.
Great stuff. Okay, take it easy. Bye now.
See ya.